Hi, in this video I'm going to talk about the Dark Tetrad. And Tetrad, if, most of you should know, it means four, right? If you Google it, chances are you will mostly find people talk about Dark Triad, which means the three elements of the dark personality. But recently, more and more people are suggesting that it makes a lot more sense to come up with the Dark Tetrad, and I subscribe to this school of thought because the fourth element is just such a natural byproduct of the other three. It just has to come as a consequence of those three. So what are the dark four? So I'm going to start with the Dark Triad, and then I'll give you the fourth element. The trio, the three elements of the dark personality are basically Machiavellianism, which means an opportunistic behavior, psychopathy, which means lack of empathy, lack of feeling, being able to see others, being able to have any sort of empathy or sympathy for people, lack of emotional intelligence, you can say. Narcissism. But when it comes to this one, I want to go ahead and say really what makes people darker is not just any sort of narcissism, because the overt narcissist, I will discuss it in more detail later, is not really that injured. The overt is a person who feels fulfilled. He feels he's so good, he's too good. I mean, as a result, because he's feeling too good about himself or herself, he's not feeling injured, he's not feeling invalidated. As a result, he has no injury to his ego, which makes them kind of safer. As opposed to the covert narcissist, which I really think, when you say dark personality, the type of narcissism gotta be 90% of times has to be the covert, because that's the one that is injured and is looking for opportunity to take revenge and hurt people. So of course the overt can be a psychopath too, but they're not gonna, probably most likely they're not gonna be as vindictive as the covert. And the fourth one, which makes it a Dark Tetrad instead of Triad, is sadism, the tendency to want to hurt others. So let me start by the first one, psychopathy. And by the way, I have to say this. This is not in the field of psychology. This is one of the areas that I believe the field of psychology has got it wrong. First of all, the field of psychology, I have to dedicate to this specific videos later how the psychologists get it wrong, because that's going to be more detail about the dumb field of psychology. Right now I want to talk about the dark, but just briefly. The dumb field of psychology, mostly for business purposes, doesn't even recognize personality disorders much. They're focusing themselves, they keep themselves busy with where they can make money. The depressed, remember that's depressed is one of the D's of the violence. The other three D's of the violence were what? The deaf, the dumb, and the dark. So I'm talking about the dark this time. So I want to say not only personality disorders are way more important than the mental illnesses like depression or bipolar. Secondly, I want to go ahead and claim this, that based on the studies I've done, borderline personality disorder is not much different from covert narcissism. The only distinction between them is what level of power the person feels he or she has. Chances are, if the person is still weak, she hasn't gained enough power to ruin others, we call them borderline personality disorder. The hermit, the coward, the one who is always say, oh my god, somebody help me, I'm a victim, I'm this, I'm that, I'm so weak. So acting like a helpless and hopeless to attract other people's sympathy, that's the initial stages. But as these people master their game more and more and start to accumulate more power and wealth by robbing other people, by hurting others, by gathering, by appeasing the ones in the position of power, they become more powerful. Gradually they start to show now their narcissism all of a sudden. So they're covert narcissists before, now they become more and more obvious. Before you thought that this is the most selfless person, and all of a sudden you see signs that this person is all about herself. What? That's the shock that I had. How come that person who was all about helping others and champion of nothing for myself all of a sudden becomes the most self-centric person in the world? So that change really is is bound to happen as they accumulate more power. So for that reason, I don't consider these two different things, the borderline versus the covert narcissist especially. It's just a matter of, do I have enough power to remove my mask to the ones who are closest to me? Once I have that power, I disclose myself that, hey, now I'm a shameless narcissist all of a sudden. Before that, I'm a hopeless borderline. So these are the same to me. Also, you hear a lot in the field of psychology about the comorbidity of bipolar and borderline personality disorder. Of course, the distinction between them is that bipolar is a physiological condition. It has to do with your how the brain and hormones and things work in your body, and that's why certain drugs like lithium, for example, help with that, because basically pills help. As opposed to the borderline, which is a kind of a fixated situation, has to do with your personality. That's why pills rarely help with that. You're going to need CBT and other methods. But at the same time, these two, the borderline and the bipolar, have high comorbidity. Now, what does word comorbidity mean? For someone like me who is mostly a statistician, that the way I interpret it is that, well, maybe these are just two manifestations of an upper root, upper cause. So there is a big cause, which I don't have a name for it. The field of psychology doesn't have a name for it. I know syndromes, by the way, that cause both of these, that makes you more likely to show borderline and bipolar, like the DiGeorge syndrome, also called Q22.11 deletion syndrome. So it has some genetic roots. Yes, interestingly enough, personality disorders like borderline can be can have a higher likelihood to happen as a result of genetic things. Although the biggest cause of so bipolar is totally physiological. You don't choose to be bipolar. You either are or are not. Environmental factors like your family rarely has. I mean, it can help to alleviate, to lower the damages in the case of bipolar, but you either have it or not. You're born with it most likely due to the genetic issues, due to brain situations. But borderline, on the other hand, is mainly caused, although there are genetic things that make you a better candidate, a more likely candidate to show it, but it's mainly caused by the fear of abandonment, either a real abandonment that has happened in your life, or you've just always lived with that kind of fear in your life that, oh my God, I'm going to be abandoned. I'm unlovable. I'm this, I'm that. Most likely it comes from a narcissistic parent that can give you this kind of thing because you feel insecure, because you never get the unconditional love. So receiving conditional love put you in a situation that you always feel either you have been abandoned or you're about to be abandoned. You feel like you're hanging to a rope which at any moment can snap, and then you fall in to the abyss of being abandoned. So that kind of environment, emotional neglect, emotional abuse especially, not really much physical, I want to say, mostly emotional abuse and neglect, which is more harmful and less easy to spot, helps you to develop borderline, which, aka, in my opinion, borderline is the same as what? The covert narcissism. The narcissism, especially the covert version of it. So, so psychopathy is also an issue that is more, you can attribute it to the brain function. So it is mostly physiological. So it is a health condition, it's a physical condition rather than a choice that somebody decides to be a psychopath. At the same time, again, there are syndromes like DiGeorge syndrome, or the deletions, the Q22Q11 deletion syndrome, that can make you more likely to have psychopathy. So among these dark tetrad, among these four, I want to start with psychopathy and say that when you're a child, uh, and again, you gotta be also, if you're born in a family of special parents who are narcissists, especially a narcissist mother, you're gonna be a lot more likely. That's why we have maternal transfer of these qualities, the dark personality and the narcissism, from mother to daughter a lot. This is the most common prevalent pattern that is observable. That's why I try to save my daughter from being the fourth generation of showing such behavior. So I'm going to start by saying psychopathy is the first element that is there. Now, when you're a psychopath, what happens is in the first grade, in the second grade, especially when you go to school, you're going to get caught. You're going to do things like things that I've heard from my ex, for example, or many others. That, for example, you put thumbtack on the teacher's chair, right? The teacher sits on the thumbtack and uh, their ass gets punctured. You laugh, then what happens? You get caught, right? Your classmates clap for you, but then teachers are going to kick you out of the class. You get caught. Now, what happens next is, so you have psychopathy. You don't feel that you cause harm. For you, it's a matter of laughter. For you, it's funny to, put a nail on people's ass. But it's not fun to get caught. So little by little, you learn how to do these things without getting caught. And that's when I believe comes the second byproduct. So I kind of believe these four, they have a chain of a pecking order between them. You gotta be first a psychopath, then you learn how to be a better psychopath, less likely to get caught, which is Machiavellianism, huh? So if you are a Machiavellian, I don't even know how to use this word properly. Should I say Machiavellian or Machiavellist, whatever? Machiavellism is about being opportunistic, right? So you learn how to utilize others in your service, how to use others as ladder to fulfill your needs, how to make best use of. So basically, you look at people as tools. And what helps you to have no remorse about doing so is also the fact that you have the narcissism too. So Machiavellianism is the element that helps you navigate through the society as you age. Now you're 15. Now you're not that little 6, 7, 10 years old kid who gets constantly get caught. So when you're in high school, the frequency of you getting caught is a lot less. You have mastered your game. And as you go to the college and marriage, you become even more and more better. You've lived a life of practicing how to do these kind of harms without getting caught. Now, there's a lot of remorse in the process, especially at first, because children are born innocent, right? Even the most psychopath child. You see the tear in the eyes of your sister or brother, it gives you remorse at first, right? That's why these people oftentimes complain, even pray to God, God, help me. I've seen this. God, help me. Why do I want to hurt others? My family has done nothing wrong. You see this in their prayers. But little by little, they discover the sad truth that they are helpless, that they're hopeless, that they just, I'm so empty. I know it's bad, but at the same time, I don't feel too bad about hurting others. So the balance between that frequency of, okay, doing bad, falling in the remorse and blaming yourself, and it doesn't feel good. So gradually you learn how to shut down that remorse, that aftertaste, that bitter aftertaste after you hurt others. You start to learn to enjoy it and shutting down your consciousness. So that's where the sadism come. So sadism. So eventually, as you gather more skill in how to not get caught and more power to do these kind of harms without suffering from consequences, you get to a point that it becomes all pleasure now. So you see how it manifests. This is my theory. I've never seen any psychologist put it this way. They always say, well, these four things have to exist for you to be a dark tetrad or dark triad. No, there is a chain between them. You gotta start from one, the psychopathy, and then you develop the others down the road. So unfortunately, the end stage, some people also say, well, these are the four stages of, I forgot the four stages of borderline. The hermit, I forgot the second one, which is you're helpless. The third one is a queen, a controller, and the fourth stage is a witch. Now you're just shameless witch who's like, if you've seen witches in the cartoons, ha 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 ha, I can do this and nobody can stop me. Hoo, ha, 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 ha. That kind of mentality, as you expect from a witch, right? So that, when does that happen? By the way, these are terminology from psychology, from the good rare psychologists that I've heard. um, well, now you have accumulated enough power. Now you have managed to silence your own conscience, to not have any remorse whatsoever. Even for yourself, you master how to flip the reality, so that if any part of reality bothers you, you replace it with your flipped version of reality, so you really fall for your own stories. This is how they practice a lifetime of how to just enjoy hurting others, being insensitive to the pain of others, without getting caught by outsiders and without getting caught by your own conscience. So, also, the other thing is, when these people face others, because they have to live with others, right? Initially, they see that, oh, I haven't hooked the guy. Imagine a dark tetrad person marries a guy. A woman marries a guy. So the guy is safe and sound. Initially, the guy is not that hooked. So you torture. This is what happened exactly in my marriage. Initially, they torture you. Then they see that, oh my God, then you may get away from them. So they start to apologizing to you, telling you that how bad I was, ask you to even beat them and punish them. This is what I had with my ex. She asked me to beat her. She said, I'm bad. You gotta, of course, some of it was joking, some of it was half joking, but she was saying, I'm literally bad person. You gotta punish me. You gotta teach me a lesson. And I was kissing and hugging and saying, no, I'm not gonna punish you. I'm gonna show you love. I'm gonna cure you with love. So little by little, they see that, it looks like now he's ready to be in my chain, in my shackle. There's no risk that I lose him anymore. So now they inflict more and more pain on you. The more they feel like, the more extra chains they put on your hand or shackle on your legs, they give you more pain, more suffering. So just to summarize, in here I just gave you a very brief hint of these four elements of Dark Tetrad, which together they come. And you may think, oh, what's the chance of four? Because the way psychologists say, you may say, what's the chance of somebody has four comorbidity, of four conditions all happen together? No, these are not really four separate conditions. These are all four manifestations of the same behavior. And I claim that psychopathy is kind of in the root cause of all the others. Being born in a family with a psychopath parents, especially mother, makes you a better candidate. Having the genetic disorders make you more likely. So there's so many contributing factors. All right, that's enough for now. Thanks for paying attention.